Hey USA Volleyball Show fans, let's pause for a second and talk about something that's been game-changing on and off the court, Zenni's wraparound visor sunglasses. Zenni has seriously upped their game with these sports performance sunglasses. The advanced polarization technology cuts the glare, enhancing visibility even in the brightest conditions. They're made for high-impact action. These aren't just any sunglasses, they're specifically designed for pro athletes like USA Volleyball Olympians Taryn Brasher and Kristen Nuss. With customizable tints and a lightweight, durable frame, you can play your best game every time. Plus, you can even add your prescription, and the high wrap frame offers full peripheral vision and eye protection. They're also super affordable. Zenni is all about making high-quality eyewear accessible to everyone. This is a whole new level of value and performance. You can pick from a range of sleek, sporty designs in various frame and lens colors. So if you're looking to upgrade your eyewear game, head over to zenni.com and explore their sports performance sunglasses. Use our exclusive promo code ZENNIUSAV, that's all caps, ZENNIUSAV, at checkout to get 15% off any Zenni frames priced at $12.95 and above, including Zenni's, the sports performance collection. This offer starts on November 9th and runs through February 1st, 2026. That code again is all caps ZENNIUSAV at checkout for 15% off any Zenni frames priced at $12.95 and above. Zenni sports performance sunglasses will help you reach a whole new level.
DeFalco for the win! What a performance by this group of men to come back.
USA one! USA!
Coming to you from the Olympic City, Colorado Springs, Colorado, this is the USA Volleyball Show. And here are your hosts, Steven Munson and Sevrin Lavenstein.
Hello and welcome to the USA Volleyball Show, the official podcast of USA Volleyball. I'm your host, Sevrin Lavenstein, alongside my co-host, Steven Munson, for what feels like the first time in forever. Steven, how the heck are you?
I went back and looked. Besides the ad read that's been playing on the episodes, I haven't recorded a podcast since episode 130, I think. So a few episodes back, and that was with Merrick McHenry. Shout out to him, and such a great time hanging out with the men's team there in the Philippines for that episode. But yeah, it's been great. It's felt like forever, and yeah, shout out to you flying solo, kind of carrying the weight here alongside Curtis, sneaking in there to host an episode for himself too at the World Paravolley Sitting World Cup. That was awesome to hear him host the show, and he did a great job. So shout out Curtis. That was awesome to hear. And then of course Lara and Bree, keeping things moving behind the scenes as well. So yeah, just wanted to take a little moment there to give you all your flowers. It's been great to kind of watch from afar a little bit and listen and see you guys kind of running things, but it's great to be back. I'm excited, and yeah, I'm excited for this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. I feel like we're all like characters in a show where we go off to have our own arcs, and then we'll come back together to kind of bring together what we learned from our different points in the show. So yeah,
you've had a great arc.
Thank you.
Just recently, especially with the campus tour. Down there in SoCal. So yeah, what's catch us up on that? How was that?
Oh, it's been so much fun. I mean, I think what's so great about being here in Southern California is there's just so much great volleyball, as everybody knows, as our listeners know, and to be able to do a little bit of a campus tour and head out to UCLA and USC was great. Huge thank you to those athletic departments for hosting me. If any other athletic departments would like to welcome me over for a podcast, I'd be more than happy to do that. It was so much fun. It was so great to talk to both John Hawks for UCLA and Sterling Foley for USC. Of course, both of them having some great success this past summer with our NTDP squads. And yeah, it's just so great to be able to talk to people in person. Always great to talk to people like you on the screen as well. And like we'll talk to Tayyiba coming up on the screen. But when it's in person, I don't mind braving the traffic on the 405 to be able to go and do that. So it was so much fun. It was a great setup. USC put me in one of their film rooms. UCLA put me in where I believe they have host recruits. And it was both just awesome atmospheres either way around. And yeah, a little bit of a preview as well for the men's college season, which we're also coming up on. So So all the way around, a lot of exciting things. If you haven't listened to those episodes, please go back and listen to them when you can. They were a lot of fun and a lot of, I think, a lot of really good insight too, Stephen.
You touched on it there, but yeah, if you haven't watched the video episodes, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go watch those video episodes, Sevrin. Those sets looked awesome. I'm a little jealous, I'll have to say. I'll be honest with that you got to be on such a sweet set in those college campuses, and yeah, the film room and that. What did you say the UCLA one was?
The UCLA one, when they said they told me it was their place where they sort of welcome recruits. You kind of, I got so confused with where you went up and down and in and out, but it was in their athletic department offices, and then you head down a couple of stairwells and tunnels, and then you hit this. It's almost like a little museum that they have there with a bunch of different trophies and mementos from different eras of different sports, and then you head into one little kind of wing there, and you got the nice neon sign and everything too. So it was really neat.
It makes sense that they bring the recruits there to kind of lock them in, because that looks sweet. At least from my view, I'm sure from your view, walking through that maze, I'm sure you're just like jaw on the floor. I thought that it just looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I went to a small D3 school, so trust me, when we were walking on the campuses of USC and UCLA, they'd sell me pretty quick, I promise.
I'm surprised you left and just start enrolling in classes or something.
Unfortunately, now I think I'm a little old to be mixing in with the freshmen there. I think some people will be like, wait a minute, that's a grown man. Like, what is he doing here? But you never know, maybe some grad school classes, but I definitely would not be able to, with my lack of coordination, to be there on the volleyball court either way. But Stephen, looking ahead, though, to this week's episode, super excited to have our guest, Tayyiba, on the pod. Again, just amazing to be able to kind of be in her shadow and watch her work with the national team this past summer, being on Eric's staff. Tayyiba's the best. She's been around with USA Volleyball in different capacities forever. It's been so just awesome to have her back. And then also I'm just looking forward to this episode and to be able to talk to her about all things in her career journey leading up to the present, but also diving into her past as well.
Yeah, excited for this conversation and hope you, the listeners and viewers on YouTube, you enjoy the conversation as well. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. Here's Tayyiba. And you're in Austin right now, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. I went to college at Texas State in San Marcos, just south of Austin there. So spent a lot of time in Austin. Loved that city. I wanted to live there after college, but just couldn't find a job there. So, but hope you're enjoying it so far.
I love it. It's very different. Like I've been to Dallas before for Athletes Unlimited. I was there for 2 years. I've been to Houston, and Austin is like very eclectic.
Yes, I always say it's just like a very different pocket of Texas.
It is.
And very different from every other part of Texas. And really, every part of Texas is kind of different, I think, just with different cultures in each, different part of Texas. But Austin, I love the outdoor scene. The food scene's great there. Live music too. If you like live music, lots of shows going on all the time. I know Severin's like, I got to get to Austin to see some live music then.
I miss Austin. I used to go a lot before I got this job, and yeah, I love Austin.
Okay.
Austin's great.
Yeah, I'm kind of exploring as much as I can without a car. But yeah, I'm not too far. Where I am is right next to where we practice at Austin Junior. So like that South Congress area, Cosmic Pickle, like all that stuff, like right down the street. Yeah, SoCo. SoCo is right where I am. So
that's cool.
It's a
do they still
good
do
place.
do they still have, and I think they went away for a little bit, kind of like around COVID, but all the food trucks that like lined South Congress, are those still around? Have you noticed those at all?
I haven't seen that, but I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Definitely take a drive down South Congress up and down and see if you see them. They might have had to move them,
Okay.
just for like, I don't know, different regulations and stuff on food trucks. But they used to have a hold on South Congress, and there were some really good food trucks there.
Okay.
I can confirm, and I forget, but if you went up to like a certain point, there was like a little circle, and they would all kind of congregate there around the circle. So I would second the food truck recommendation.
Okay. And that was just like a certain night of the week that they would do it, or
All the time.
They were just all the time.
They were there all the time. That was like it was kind of like the first come first serve for all the food trucks. They would just get there as early as they could and line up South Congress, and they would just be there all day and then do it again the next day.
Yeah.
Also, the
No,
bats.
that's
Have you
great.
seen the bats on a
I,
360
you know what?
bridge?
Eric was, he was just telling me about those not too long ago, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to go like under the bridge." I guess we're probably just at the end of the season where they're here. Like I think they said like March to October,
Yeah,
or
that's right.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
something
So
like that.
they might not be
Yeah. So
there
I
anymore.
think every now and then he said there's probably still a few stragglers, but probably towards the middle of season it'll be a little bit more prominent, and so
Hmm.
it's definitely something. And then in the gym here on the floor and like the side that the club practices on, they've got like bats on the floor, like little images, and I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
That's
Yeah.
okay,
sick.
so
Hmm.
they're trying to establish new identity for Love now that teams are kind of becoming their own independent kind of
Oh,
franchises and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I do something with the bats? Can I do something with the
You
bats?
got to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin and the bats, it kind of goes hand in hand. And yeah, I took my wife there a few years ago. It was her first time to Austin. And she was just like blown away. She was like, "You
Yeah.
said it was a lot, but I didn't think it'd be like this. It's
Yeah.
thousands of
Yeah.
bats just flying constantly in and out under the bridge. It's really cool. And you can like paddleboard or kayak under the bridge too and watch them, or you could like stand on top of the bridge and watch them.
Yeah, I don't know what bat poop is like, but I don't want to be caught underneath
You
that.
probably don't want to be under them. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
true.
know.
The parking garages, you got to watch out for those walking around Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad. I'm next time we see you. Would love to talk more about Austin and what you've experienced so far.
For
But
sure.
glad we got a little Austin talk in there. That was fun.
Yeah.
Really quickly, before we kind of get into just your career playing and coaching, it was recently Thanksgiving, and wanted to hear how your Thanksgiving break was, if you can call it a break. I'm not sure if you can call it a break or not.
We got about 4 days off, 5 days
There you
off.
go. Okay.
Thanksgiving was great. It's always fun just to have the family all in one place. For years, my husband has worked overseas as a contractor, as a pilot. And so we haven't had time where we're together. And so this is probably the first time in a little while. Well, we're all under one roof. My kids don't let me coach them in volleyball. They both just started. And so my daughter had actually asked me to go play in the backyard with her. And so we set up a
Wow.
whole net. We were playing. And so it was just this heartwarming moment for me because I'm like, oh my God, I actually get to soak this in real fast and teach you instead of going back to mom, because I'm sure next time I see them, they're not going to want to hear from me again. It's just be mom, just be mom. But Thanksgiving was great.
Just
That's
saying to
so
yourself, be
funny.
cool, mom. Be cool, mom.
Look,
I know
look.
it. Were you like kind of walking on glass, like trying to find that balance between mom and coach then, and just so you can hopefully get another opportunity to do that down the road?
It really was. My husband would probably he was a little bit more intense than I was. Like, oh, look, you can do this or this. I'm like, yeah, back up, like ease off of it just a little bit. Like, I want this moment to happen again, and so we're just gonna feed them little bite-sized pieces of information. But
When they want to
keep it
get their
fun.
pilot's license, you can talk to them then, right?
Look,
This is my
exactly.
moment.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. No.
Look. And also, while I'm teaching them, you could probably learn some of this as well.
There you go. There you go. Do you have like a favorite dish around Thanksgiving that you always look forward to?
Ooh, I would probably say my mom's mac and cheese, which is also kind of my grandma's
Oh,
mac and cheese, which
yum.
also might have just been like some southern recipe that they found online, or I don't know, but her mac and cheese is really one of the best. And then my brother usually does a smoked turkey, and so he did like a Cajun butter, a fried turkey, sorry. So it was like Cajun butter seasoning this year, but the turkey and the mac and cheese, well, that's like chef's kiss.
Ooh, that sounds so good. I love mac and
Mhm.
cheese,
Yeah.
especially like a good like a home cooked one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the best.
Not the box stuff. Like this is like
No,
the
no, no,
five,
no,
six
no.
different cheeses in there and all that. Oh gosh, it's so good. Mhm.
I would be thankful just for all that amazing food that it sounds like you had. But obviously, I'm assuming you'd probably be pretty thankful too that your schedule sort of aligned where you could be home and not on the road for
Absolutely.
anything at that point, right?
Absolutely. Just I know we're gonna get into it as well, but being with the U17 team in Costa Rica, we were there for 2 weeks. I literally came home. I was home for 2 days, and then I flew out to Austin to kind of start my season with Love. And so had been there for about 2 weeks. And so it was just kind of like, man, it was just nice to be home in my own bed with my family and just kind of savor that moment before everything gets super hectic again.
Sevrin, do you have a favorite Thanksgiving dish or
Oh,
anything that you look forward to?
a favorite Thanksgiving dish. It's a tough one. You're putting me on the spot where I can get in real trouble with my family here. I haven't had Thanksgiving with my family in a while. I've been doing Friendsgiving since I've been out here,
Oh,
which is
that's
super
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend Emma. She's always bringing me into her friend group. And then there's some sort of dietary restrictions where things are a little bit different, where that we need some gluten-free options or things like that. But so this year I made a gluten-free version of my dad's pecan pie. So when he flew out here, he kind of like taught me how to make it, and then I tried to make that as well. It's so hard to pick. I will say there's one specific dish that my grandma made that my mom has now kind of carried on, which is like, I don't know if it's like creamed onions is the right word, but it's like these onions in a cream sauce, and they're softened up, and they're tiny little onions where it's I don't know, it probably doesn't sound great to a lot of people, but it's really
Sounds
good. But
amazing to
honestly,
me.
I can get as creative as that, or I can tell you, honestly, I'm one of those people who likes the cranberry sauce straight out of the can, and you can say that's weird, but I don't care. I love it. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
It's a
but I'm
little
not
weird, but
sorry.
we'll let it slide, I guess.
I go. You're probably like, oh, he's gonna say turkey
slid
or
down
stuff.
the
And like, I
ladder
go,
just a little.
onions, and I
You
go
should have
cranberry
stopped
sauce.
at the onions.
Right?
Yeah,
Or the,
I'm,
like,
I'm,
like the green bean casserole, like the onions that are in that.
that's
Like
like the
some
best
people
part of the
love
green
that,
bean
right?
casserole.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had a green bean casserole, so
What?
I've yet to try that, honestly. But
that's one
I
of
would be
my
open
Let's
to
favorites.
talk
it.
to Emma after the show. We're gonna call up Emma and be like, "We're planning Friendsgiving for next year already. Like, here's what's the menu."
You laugh, but I would totally get her on a FaceTime with you. I bet you guys would be best friends in 2 seconds. That would totally
I love
happen.
it. Let's do it.
Tayyiba, though, I do want to talk about that U17 team if we can transition here. I mean, pretty historic to get that gold medal and to just the amazing work that you did. But I would love to start, if it's okay, with coaching that age group. I mean, that's an age group that we don't see. I don't think we've ever seen before. And you've coached at basically every level, from all the way at the top to with these 17-year-olds. What was different about that experience? What did you have to do to coach this amazing 17s team?
Look, you know what? I stressed over coaching that team weeks beforehand of like, what do we need to do and kind of over prepared and all of that. And then I got there and they're 14 and 15 years old. I mean, they're eighth graders on this team, but they were some of the most mature players of high school that I've ever seen. They stepped onto the court and it's like, wait a minute, you're not 14, 15. Like, you guys are playing like you've been in college for years. You guys are adapting to everything that we're throwing at you. Like, we're running USA fast systems, like stuff that we're practicing with the national team, the senior team. We're actually able to implement on that team. And so it was really kind of fun because they came with a level of innocence to them that just it made it fun to coach. They just kind of restored my love of the game, like just seeing them compete and stoke in everything that us as a staff kind of provided to them. But again, that level of innocence compared with the level of competitiveness that they showed and just that eagerness to impress and compete and all of that, like it was just so heartwarming to be a part of. And just I can't wait to see what this group does in the future because there are some amazing young women on that team.
You mentioned coming in and you over prepared and then were kind of surprised at where they were at, in their development of the sport. Where do you think that comes from? Is that like a testament of the clubs? Is that, maybe the exposure of volleyball, being able to watch more, at the college levels and now the pros as well?
Yeah, I do think that this young generation is kind of hungry. Like, I think that they are learning in different ways. They're learning on social media. They're learning through the mentors, through the programs that are happening right now. I do think that the clubs are doing a great job in developing, but I also really, and I kind of, there was a separate social media post about it, but I also think it's a testament to NTDP program in itself. Everyone that was on that team had been to at least one training series, whether it was winter, spring, or summer, but they'd been to one camp. And so just kind of the continuity of what they're learning in comparison to what we're doing on the national team. And so it's like, hey, I don't know what I have to teach you. I don't know where you guys are, but that level was already raised because they knew it all. And so again, I was going in thinking, man, I'm going to have to over teach on some of this stuff. And we only have 2 weeks. And so what are the key points that we want to touch on to get the most success in a short amount of time? And we got in there and it's like, you know what, you already know this, you know it fast, you know the big, you know, like all the different serving patterns that we want to do. And so it was like, let's go compete. Like let's work on systems and timing and all of that. But we know the language that's already in USA Volleyball.
Tayyiba, I remember talking last year, I think it was at GJNC, to a couple college coaches who were scouting some girls around that age, and they talked about how at that point they really wanted to see more of, how are girls reacting to maybe a play that doesn't go so well, or what are they like when they get back into a huddle after, a missed serve or something like that. And I'm curious how you kind of saw those little things about this team, and were those some things that you picked up on in early practices before you went on the travel, and how was that kind of part of that team that you observed?
Yeah, it's, going into it, we're not going to have everything figured out. And even in the pro and even at this level here, we're never going to have everything figured out. And we're not going to have a rule for every single thing. And it's one of the things that I think Eric Sullivan preaches a lot on the senior team. We're not going to have a rule for every single thing that happens in volleyball. In 14, and we're playing a game to 16, and we're in that fifth set, and we don't have a rule for that next play. Are you going to fall apart, or are you going to learn to adapt? And so a lot of those situations, it's, maybe a bad play, or maybe it starts to be chaotic, and it's just kind of stopping. Like, what did you see in this play? And maybe what's a better choice, or how can we make a better outcome out of this situation? And so it really isn't just me just throwing things at them and saying, this is how it's going to be. It's how can you learn and adapt in this situation? How do you think that you can have a different outcome than what you just had? And so I think there were a lot of learning opportunities where we're not going to know it all, but we're also creating an environment where we're going to fail, and we're going to fail faster. Like, we're going to do it, we're going to learn from it. And again, hey, the next time that situation happens, we're going to make it better.
This was a historic run by this team. I mean, not only was it the first ever U17 girls team, national team within USA Volleyball, but didn't even drop a set the entire tournament. Undefeated all the way to gold. Was that anything you guys kind of thought about or talked about? Maybe like a inner team goal, like just something that for them to fight for? Or yeah, could you talk a little bit about that and what that meant to you personally?
Yeah, the expectation was to show up and control what we can control. And I know every coach has talked about that. Every parent has always talked about that. But we're going to go and play to the best of our ability, and we're not going to worry about what's happening on the other side of the net. We're not going to get caught up in the different levels of energy or chaos that's happening. We're going to stay true to USA Volleyball. We're going to play our systems. And if we're doing it the right way, spectacular things are going to happen. And essentially, that's what evolved. And again, it was never getting ahead of ourselves. Let's be present. Let our head be where our feet are, and let's play every point for every point. And when the last ball drops, then we can go celebrate and we can talk about all the success and all the cool things that we've done. But let's stay in this moment always. We're here, we're new on the scene, and so it gets overwhelming. We're trying to qualify for world championships, and there's a lot of pressure in that. But you know what? The court's the same height, the same size, the volleyball net is the same height. Like, we know the game of volleyball, so let's just go out and play. And if we play, great things are going to happen.
Were you reinforcing those same messages maybe in some timeouts or before the match, giving kind of a pre-match speech, if you will? Was it pretty easy to just kind of keep it at the same messaging, or are there little kind of touch points that you had to hit throughout that final match?
I think it was more, again, they were so much more mature than what I thought it would be going into it. And so I didn't have to touch on it too much. I think the things that I probably touched on a little bit more were, we just want to bounce every single ball. Like, we've seen that we can do it on some teams, and we just want to bounce every ball. And so how can we evolve as players? Like, how can we fine tune some of our shots, our tips, our roll shots, high hands, just kind of utilizing our toolkit a little bit more, because it's not just about this moment. Like, how are we going to be good in a week, in 2 weeks, the next time we play world championships? And it's evolving you guys as a player versus just bouncing every single ball, even though we know we can. Mm-hmm.
I was one of the people kind of responsible for covering from afar doing the recaps and stuff. So I was watching every match, and I didn't know until you just said it earlier that they were eighth graders. And so now looking back on that, I'm like shocked, as I'm sure you were, that they were just playing so at such a high level, and then fighting through some adversity too in some of those matches, being down, things not going their way, and fighting out of those holes. And like I said earlier, not even dropping a set. That's, I mean, just incredible to watch. So it was a lot of fun for me, kind of as a fan of volleyball, to watch that. And now that you kind of shed some light on how old they actually were, I'm just like blown away and
Yeah.
excited to where they're going to go, like you said.
All right. I think there were two eighth graders, three eighth graders. I think two, and then a couple of freshmen
Okay,
and
yeah.
a couple of sophomores. There's a little bit of range in there, but yeah, they
Wow.
handled themselves very, very well.
Steven and I are on the same wavelength, because I was going to say a pretty similar thing where in some of the matches I was covering, they did such a great job of stopping runs. And to be honest, not that there were a whole lot that you had to face, but a couple serving runs or early kind of momentum from the opponents, and they would just get kind of right back on track so quickly. And I thought that was so impressive.
Yeah. And we tell like, hey, we're not walking onto the scene and telling the world that USA volleyball is here. Like, we're storming into this. Like, we're making a scene. We're letting the world know. Like, we're putting them on notice that U17 national team is here. We're here to go win some medals, and whether it's this competition, it's world championships, whatever it be, we're gonna make our name known.
And those athletes, they're just starting off in the pipeline too. They're going to be here for a long time. So watch out, world, right?
And and something special, like you said, they're in the pipeline, and I think it's something that's really special. Even though we took 12, there were 17 girls that were a part of that team. There were 17 that were named, and unfortunately, we've got to make some cuts as we go into competition. But we really honed in on, like, this is our family. Like, you guys are the first, and it's not just the 12; it's the 17 of you that are the first U17 national team. Like, you guys get to write chapter 1 of what it means to be the U17 national team. Like, we're writing a story that's going to long live out, like, all of us. Like, this is the legacy and the standard that we're setting forth for every U17 that comes after us. And I really applaud all the girls that were there, whether they traveled or not, just coming in and really setting precedent for what we want to do at that age level.
Tayyiba, just one more.
Gave me some chills there. I wish I could start it every day with a Tayyiba pump up speech like that. That's so cool.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one, Steven. Tayyiba, just one more question on this sort of area is, for some of those girls that were maybe, just on the fringe, or those upcoming eighth graders who look at this team and like, man, I would love to be a part of that. What is your advice to those athletes who are looking to kind of to write chapter 2, if you will?
Look, I think that it's hard to be young and to kind of have this path of, like, I'm going to be an Olympian and I have to make this U17, and it's that or else. And so, I think I tell people I didn't start until I was 16, 17 years old. So these girls are far ahead of where I am. And it's kind of be okay with where you are and be hungry to learn. And so just because you heard a no once, don't stop. If you're not there yet, don't stop. Comparison is the thief of all joy, kind of thing. Don't compare yourself to this person or this person. Compare yourself to who you are and where you've been and where you want to go. And so, get in there and study. Get in there and go to the pro game. Get in there, ask questions with your coaches, watch video, all of that. But just be hungry to learn different avenues, different ways. There's no one way of playing volleyball. And so as much as you can soak in, just be a sponge at that age.
You may have touched on it already, and before we kind of move on and talk about the next thing here, was there anything that you learned from this experience that you're going to kind of bring with you with Love Austin, and then later this next summer with the national team?
Ooh, that's a good question. I learned a lot, honestly, but I think just to enjoy the game, and kind of see it through the athlete's eyes sometimes. Like, I think that sometimes we just get into, like, I'm a parent, I'm a coach, and I'm this, and I've got this game plan I've got to do and I hold to. But it's just so nice to, again, like step back into the 14-year-old eyes and like, what is that experience for you? Like, it wasn't just about the volleyball. It's their first time traveling internationally. It's their first time. They got 5 of them in a hotel room. Like, they're experiencing that. It's not always a 4-star accommodation that we might have here in USA. So just kind of sitting back and like enjoying the journey for what it is and not getting 5 steps ahead of where you are sometimes.
I love that. I think I've said this same story a few times on the podcast, but that kind of reminds me of my brief, very short coaching career. But I was coaching a 14U boys team, and I was teaching them that the set's not always going to be perfect. Maybe you got to use your left hand or your non-dominant hand sometimes to get to the ball, whatever. And it happened in a game where the outside hitter went up and it was way over, outside the pin, and he reached over for his left hand and got it back over for the point. And his face just lit up, staring right at me, and that was such a cool feeling, as a coach, and to have that, and just kind of gave me that, like you said, that new perspective on, I wasn't a coach then. I was enjoying the game through his eyes, and just how much he just loved the sport and achieved something that he didn't think he could achieve, and something he worked on in practice came to fruition in a game. So much different level from what you're talking about, but that just kind of reminded me of that. That was a cool moment.
Well, from the start of the journeys for a lot of these athletes and this incredible achievement of theirs to all the way back to the beginning of your volleyball journey is where we're going to go with our next question, and it's something that we ask all of our guests. So Tayyiba, reach back into the recesses of your mind and tell us how you were first introduced to the game of volleyball.
I wish I could actually remember the true story of how I was introduced, but I really don't. I played I was in a clinic when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and I really didn't like it, and so I just kind of put it on the back burner. But the story that I remember, the part that really got my career going, was that I grew up as a track athlete and a basketball athlete. Like, those were my passions. I was diehard. I knew I wanted to be Olympian when I was 5 years old, and I was going to go to the Olympics for track, and like that was my journey. I was spent my summers at Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista, and like that was just who I was going to be. Um, and it was my sophomore year in high school. I was in between seasons, and my math teacher was the JV volleyball coach. And the varsity middle went down with ankle sprain. She wasn't going to be able to compete that season. And it's like, hey, you know what? Would you mind coming out? Would you be interested in playing? And again, I knew nothing about it. I had played a clinic long before and didn't like it, but I said, why not? I'm in between seasons. It'll help me with my high jump. It'll help me with my layups when I'm doing basketball. Let's stay in shape. Let's do it. And at the time, not to date myself, but you could block the serve. So my job was to come out and block the serve. If the ball got past me, I was like a chicken with his head cut off. Like, I didn't know what to do. But there's something that's just so contagious about the sport. And, the girls really just kind of rallied around me. I love the energy. I love learning. It was something just kind of new. And, I had that potential. Like, you've got the potential to do something so good. You're so young, and you've got this world of volleyball knowledge that can be thrown at you. And so I just enjoyed what the future could look like, knowing that I had done basketball my entire life. I think by my senior year, WNBA was in its first year, but I really just was not interested in basketball anymore. So volleyball was kind of the thing that, like, hey, I want to see where this goes. But it all started from a teacher asking me in the middle of math class.
Be honest. How often did the ball get past you on the serve?
Well, they started figuring out, so they definitely started serving away from me. But like the first couple of times when I'm just kind of bent over, then stand up and block the ball, I'm just like, wait, can you do that? Like, they didn't have someone on the team that could do that. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Was there a moment that you remember? I think you touched on it maybe a little bit there, but just a moment that you remember just like clicking, and you're like, "This is it. I wanna stay in this sport."
Honestly, it was so I qualified for Olympic trials and track in 2000. And so I went to that event, and it was just such a wonky event. The timing was off just because of network TV. The track itself wasn't as big, and there were just a lot of things that just added to the experience where I didn't qualify. I wasn't one of the best jumpers at the time, but it was great to be there. But the number one high jumper in America, which I think she was the number one high jumper in the world at the time, didn't even get her mark. Like she didn't clear height, she didn't qualify
Wow.
for the team. And it was like in this moment, like, man, you spend your entire life competing and waiting for this moment, and you've got one day, and for some athletes, a matter of seconds to like figure it out and make this Olympic team. And then that moment is like, I don't want to do that.
You
Like I
start
really
doing the
love
math in
volleyball.
your head, yeah.
Yeah, like, and if I'm a team sport, if I'm having a bad day, then like I've got 11, 12, 13 other people that can help me still achieve my goals. I still have plenty of opportunities. Like we've got qualifiers, and you've got your zone, and there's multiple opportunities to qualify for the Olympics. And so it kind of became like, man, I don't know if track is really where I want to go, and I don't like this future, but I have this opportunity in volleyball, and it could be something that's really spectacular, and I just love the process of it. And so, like, hey, I'm all in. Like, 10 toes down, I'm in.
That's so neat that you had that other doorway open. I feel like a lot of times the ending for a sport for some people can be a little emotional when it's like, hey, that's kind of it, and either you lose the love or you lose the ability to play it. And that's so neat that yours was just like, hey, here's this new doorway opening, and it was more than just a doorway. It ended up being a doorway to being one of the best that the sport has ever seen. So with that, just how were you introduced to the national team, and when did you first realize, oh, I can not only can I play this sport, I can play this sport pretty darn well enough to represent the country?
Yeah, I owe a lot to my coaching staff, Debbie Green and Brian Gemilaro at Long Beach State. They recruited me. They saw, the potential in me. They knew where I could be, especially with them. Brian having coached Flo Hyman, Debbie playing with Flo Hyman of like, here is this young girl who's your height who went on and, she was just, she's historic. She's a legend in our sport. And so they kind of wanted to mold me after some of that. But my freshman year after Final Four, I was injured a little bit. I had like a sciatic problem going on, but there were tryouts for the collegiate national team. And they said, you're going. I was like, I'm injured. I can't even do anything. It's like, you're still going. You're going to go out there. You're going to, do your best and see where the chips may land. But got out there, tried out, had a decent tryout, and made the team. And so just every summer, kind of after that, I was with the collegiate national team. I got to, practice alongside the senior team sometimes and go on a couple tournaments here and there by the time I graduated. But yeah, just kind of my college coaches seeing what could be possible and putting me in the right environment. And that's really how I got introduced to the national team.
When you were coaching, well, not only just the U17 team, but throughout your career with the NTDP, do you kind of reflect on that experience at all that you had kind of in that pipeline, and maybe wanting to bring some of what you learned to the table, and then maybe even make it a better experience maybe for those athletes?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a coaching philosophy, but I learned a lot through all the different programs that I've been in, club, college, all of that. And kind of, I guess my philosophy is I really want to be the coach that I needed when I was a player. And so
Love
sometimes
that.
that means like I need somebody to see me. Like I need them to know what's going on outside the world affects who I am when I step on the court. I need them sometimes I just need someone to light a fire under my butt and to like get after it. Sometimes I need someone to realize like there's some emotional heavy things going on and I'm not fully present right now, but I can give what I can give. I need you to understand that and kind of be okay with it. Like sometimes I just need someone to meet me where I am. And so that's what I try to bring to a lot of the teams that I'm on, whether it's the 14s, like, hey, I'm going to meet you guys where you are. One of the first questions I ask them, like, are you guys Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah? Like, summer return pretty. Hey, I'm there. Like, I know what's going on in the team world. you
Love
know,
that.
or like, I'm going to meet you where you are at college. And sometimes, like, you're stressed and you've got grades and you've got this, and there's the pressure on you of what's next. And even pro, like, you guys have lives that are outside of this. And so just seeing you for who you are and still kind of elevating you to the next level. Like, if you've got 70%, like I want you to give that 70% today. I'm not going to get on you for like, dude, you weren't here. But the days that you aren't here, I'm going to let you know like what's going on. But so many coaches forget the human side of the sport. Like it's just the business of sport. And I really want to bring the human side into it as well.
I can confirm that you do, because I was going to save this for later, but I think it was so neat to be able to watch you with Eric's staff this past summer, because I think that's exactly what you did with the senior teams. I was saying to Steven before this, you always knew, this is the moment I need to jump in here. Maybe I need to, I would watch you kind of stand off and sort of observe and take in some things, or you'd know exactly when to go to the whiteboard for something. And what you're talking about with being that coach that you needed as a player, I think you can see that in your coaching style, and I think that's so great, because I wanted to ask if you had a philosophy, and I think that is definitely your philosophy, and I think that's so that's a hard thing to do, in my opinion, is to know, okay, what's needed here, even what's needed at the different levels like you're talking about, and I would hazard a guess that is not necessarily something that comes natural to a lot of people, but even the relatability, I imagine, has got to be different, just with the different eras. I'm assuming that now coaching is probably even different than it was 10 years ago, or however long before that. So I guess the question here is, how have you been able to stay relatable to players, even as the game progresses, even as rules change, and even as your role kind of changes as well, coming in with this new staff that you did this summer?
Well, again, I think it's just, like I said, it's the human side of it. It is knowing that I've been where you are right now. Like as a player, I'm coaching mothers now. They've got young sons, daughters. Like the stress of that, of having to be like, I'm here and I'm supporting my career, but I'm also supporting, like, I've got some other mouths to feed in this. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, so I can relate to the team, but it's finding ways to kind of connect on a different level other than just volleyball. Like, hey, we could talk volleyball all day. You want to come to my office, we could talk about that. But it's just finding ways that if people believe in who you are and they kind of buy your story, then they're more willing to work for you. Like they're going to try. They're going to, hey, this is our dream, and it might be outrageous, but there are beautiful things that we can do to achieve it. And I'm going to need you to sacrifice some things along the way. And if they believe in who I am and the story that I'm providing, then they're going to be willing to show up and sacrifice and work and push through the moments that they don't feel good so that we can obtain that goal.
All right, I was gonna follow up when you mentioned the summer I turned pretty. Are you doing any other pop culture research ahead of the season here?
No, you know what? The first game we did, we did like gosh, for the U17s, I had them send me like 3 fun facts. And so we did like a bingo card, and they had to go around the room and do the bingo card. And so the first person that got bingo got the Labubu. And so we talked about Labubu. We talked about some TikTok dance. Like TikTok is the other things. Like I try to stay up on like the different dances and the lingo and everything that's happening so that I can relate with wherever they are. Like even the pro girls are all about their TikTok challenges and all that. So I try to get in there as much as I can, just so that I have a little understanding.
I love that. Want to jump into your career with the national team too, and please stop me and correct me if I get any of your accolades wrong here. But 3-time Olympian, 2-time Olympic silver medalist. What was it like? What was your experience like with the national team through those years and competing at the Olympic Games? Could you just shed some light on what that meant to you personally?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. It was worth it. Like I said, I knew I wanted to be an Olympian when I was 5, and so I knew what the sacrifice would be. And there were moments where it's like, am I doing the right thing? My third Olympics, my son was 2. I had been married for a few years and had spent more than like 2 weeks with my husband at any given point. And so there's a lot of sacrifice, but it was so worth it. It was, a dream deferred for some of those years, but it's when you step onto the podium and you get to look back at everything that you went through, all the moments, all the people that held you up, the mentorship that you get to provide, the way you get to represent USA, and just kind of show what triumph can look like in the face of adversity. In the instance of 2008, there was a lot of adversity with that team, with Bachman and her family. But it's just kind of here's who we are collectively as a team and people as Americans, in how we triumph and how we just keep pushing and achieve our goals. And so, it was a great story. I love that there were some moments of darkness in there because it made winning a medal so much more worth it.
I'm going to say here really quick, Sevrin and Curtis, please check me if I ever complain about being a dad. I have a 2-year-old myself, and I am nowhere near the level of stress and pressure that you were at that time. So, yeah, please check me if I ever complain about that. Love being a dad though. Love being a parent. It's
Love
awesome.
that.
Really quickly though, also I do need to hop off. I'm so upset because I'm having such a great time talking with you. I have a doctor's appointment that I got to run to, but hope it was really nice to talk to you. Hopefully I see you soon, again down the road. Are you going to be at ABCA by chance?
No, I think Eric and Virginia are going to be there, and
Okay.
I'll be back here with Rob doing some coaching.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully sometime down the road, I'll see you and we can catch up a little bit more about Austin as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right, Sevrin, Tayyiba, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conversation.
Yes.
Well, Tayyib, I want to pick up with your Olympic experience, and I would love to ask, obviously, aside from becoming a parent, after you had gone through the Olympic process the first time, how was it different when you went back? Were you more prepared? Was it just its own unique situation every time? How did you learn from that first experience for your next Olympic experiences?
Man, I was fortunate enough to go through 3 Olympics, and each one of them was so uniquely different. 2004 going into it, was my first Olympics. It's the moment I've been dreaming of since I was 5, and I hear your dream is realized. Like we're in it, and I think as a team, we just had a rough time going into that experience. We were number 1 in the world. We were picked to win a gold medal, but I think that there was just um, inner turmoil happening on the team before we went in. And unfortunately, we lost a match. I believe it was Dominican that we probably shouldn't have, or good for Dominican. They outplayed us, but um, I think we had much higher expectations than what we achieved there, and so it really kind of became this moment where it's like, I don't ever want to do this again. Like I don't want to be part of it. Like everything that I thought was going to happen just kind of went by the wayside, and it wasn't a great experience. People left immediately after the last match. Like there was no closure in it. And so, I decided to retire. I thought I was going to be done. And I remember not too long after that, again, and Amani was like, "This is not how it's supposed to be. And we need to do this again. Like, come do this with me again." And I said, "You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it." And so came back. Had actually shifted positions for a little while. I was playing outside, and then went back to the right side later on during that quad. But again, 2008, unfortunately, again with Liz Bachman, her parents were involved in a tragedy there, and we learned about this merely hours before our first match. And at the time, we didn't know if it was a terrorist threat. We didn't know if there was some kind of attack. And so, they woke us up from our naps. They pulled us into a room with some psychologists, and it was really kind of this team meeting of like, do we still want to compete? Do you guys still want to do this? And we need to refocus. But go reach out to your families, make sure everything's okay. But then now, as I was talking about before, now you're playing for something bigger than yourself. Like we weren't expected to necessarily medal that time around. And it's you're playing for something bigger than yourself. We're playing for each other. We're playing for a teammate who just lost her father. We're playing to show what Americans can do in the face of adversity. Like we just have so much more purpose in this. And so um, medaling, silver medal, being able to play for a gold medal was something truly incredible. And then, really achieved my dreams. I got a medal, and so now I can walk away confidently from the sport, knowing that I've done what I need to do. And I stepped away for a while, and there's that itch again. It just kind of like crawls back up. It gets you, like it has a way of pulling you back in. And I was sitting there. The team had been competing. They were picked to win a gold medal again. And I really just wanted to be a part of it. I've got a newborn son. I'm like, I'm not finished. I still feel like I have more. and I want to go and try. And so I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put my best foot forward. And if I don't make this team and someone beats me out, at least I know. At least I have that feeling like I know that I didn't make it instead of just wondering. And so, went back out there and I didn't make a whole lot of teams that quad. I made essentially two teams, like 2, 3 teams. I made the team that qualified for the Olympics, the team that went to the Olympics. And it was grueling. Again, being with a 2-year-old, not being on like the A side or the B side of the court, being on like court D or E and having no practice plan and playing with just a few players that first year, and just kind of making my way back up. And so that experience itself to make that team and be on the podium again and seeing that whole experience through the eyes of my 2-year-old, he's hearing the national anthem playing and like, oh, that's mommy's work song. Like he doesn't know about it yet, but like, oh, that's mommy's work song. And just to see the pride in my family and just knowing what I had to overcome to be there, it was truly one of the most incredible experiences. And so every Olympics was a little bit different in its own right, but none less valuable than the other.
Yeah, his baby and toddler pictures are probably beating out anybody else's when they're from those views for sure.
Yeah, no,
Um,
he's got the little medal around him and everything.
exactly. I mean, oh man, you take him to school, just for the first pictures, he's got the medal around him. Imagining that'd be so great. Um, at that level, and I'm sure there's not a clear cut answer for this, but I mean, you sort of touched on it a little bit. When you're playing for medals, what factors become most important? You mentioned, the adversity and kind of rallying behind that, the kind of camaraderie of the team, the systems. When you get to those stages, I'm imagining in practices you're not really going through X's and O's at that point. You're rallying around other factors. This is a complicated question, but what is the most important thing for a team that is competing on that stage? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the momentum? Is it just, who's hot at the right time? Can you kind of expand on that?
I would love to say that there's one clear answer, but I think every personality of each team is different. And so sometimes they need that camaraderie. Sometimes they need, the captain that's just like the major cheerleader and going to set some stuff on fire. Sometimes some teams just need that common presence. And ultimately, I think the common presence wins over for me a little bit more just because the game is a game. You've been playing it, and especially when you get to the Olympics, it's pretty much the same teams you've been playing the last 4 years or 8 years. It's still a game to 25. You're playing the best 3 out of 5. Like the aspect of it hasn't changed. Yes, the outcome and what it means to win a gold medal or to be on that podium has a lot more at stake, but the game itself is just a game. And so if you can remain calm and you can remain present and you can play to what you know and what you've done and what got you there, then you're going to have a lot of success. I think when the moment itself becomes too overwhelming and you make it bigger than what it is, then you get lost in it and you can't show up to be the player or the team that you have been shown to be.
I think you did as great a job of answering that as anybody could have. That was awesome. If someone's passing you on the street, let's say it's 30 years from now, and they recognize you from playing in the Olympics, what would you say? And they ask, what was it like? Tell me what it was like. What would you say to them that maybe wouldn't be something that you'd say on a TV interview, or something that would convey the emotion and just the amazing story of being able to compete on the Olympic level?
Man, that's another good question. I think it's really hard to put into words what that moment really means. But I think it's probably there are going to be moments in your life where you feel like you're standing in the middle of a dream. That's what the Olympics is. It's like that moment. It's overwhelming as you know that you're exactly where you're meant to be. And there's a little bit of quiet in there, like that moment before the whistle blows. It's that moment of like taking it all in. Like the crowd is yelling, you're on this enormous stage, there's millions watching at home, and like maybe your heart is thumping out of your chest, but it's that moment of stillness of like, I made it. Like I'm here. And the years of sacrifice were worth it. The years of, just grinding are worth it. But it's just that like stillness in that moment that I think like gosh, you are exactly where you are meant to be. And whether it's Olympics or whether it's, whatever your dream may be, you're going to have that moment where it's just kind of like, I'm here, I'm right at the cusp, and now let's let the dream live.
That's got to be just an unbelievable feeling to hit that I made it moment.
Yeah.
For everybody in every career, I certainly, I think it's something that has got to be the ultimate dream, right? For whatever anybody's going for, to be able to have that I made it moment. And that's
Yeah.
unreal that you get to have that more than one time, especially too, right? But
Yeah.
I want to sneak in a question too before we get too far along, but just, you talked about how difficult the training periods are, and we get to see it when we're here in the national team training center. It's not all about the glory. Sometimes it's about those tough days of practice. It's about hoping you're going to make the team. And can you kind of give some more light, shed some more light on what it was like to go through that training? And I believe, were you in Colorado Springs at the time doing some of that Olympic training?
Most of my career, I was in Colorado Springs. When we were training for the 2012 Olympics is when we moved over to Anaheim.
And what were some of those training sessions like? And do you remember any bonding moments outside, around Colorado Springs with a team? Do you remember kind of a lot of difficult practice days? Anything from that training sessions?
Yeah, I think when we were in Colorado Springs, I think what people don't realize, the altitude itself is probably one of the most difficult pieces of that. And so training at altitude is just much more difficult, just the oxygen level and acclimation and all that. But while we were there, you know, I think it's funny when we travel, people are like, oh, what do you do? And I play volleyball. I'm like, oh, that's a great hobby, but what do you actually do? Like, no, this is my job. Like, I'm in the gym. We're waking up and we're having a 3-hour practice in the morning where we're probably doing, some team stuff. We're getting into 6-on-6. Like, we're going intense. And then we've got our recovery, we've got our rehab. Mondays and Tuesdays, we've got strength and agility training. Wednesdays or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're in the weight room. Then we come back after recovery and lunch, and we've got another 2-hour practice where we're doing serve and pass. And maybe there's video sessions after that. There's some scouting after that. There's meetings with the coaches. And so it's essentially a 9 to 5. Like, we're in the gym all day long. And I think, there are moments for fun with the team, and especially in Colorado Springs, like, you know, the trips out into the mountains and Pikes Peak and just rallying around the city. There's a couple clubs, the downtown scene. Gotta get out and have some fun every now and then. But we definitely try to create a family vibe where it's like, hey, if we're in Colorado Springs and there's not a whole lot to do, that we're over at someone's house and we're hanging out, we're doing a cookouts, we're just checking in with each other, but we're trying to build that camaraderie that we talked about previously.
And then post-playing career, I'm curious, did you need some time before you got the itch to go coach, or did you need that kind of break, or were you immediately right into like, nope, I'm going to go do coaching. I know this is the next step here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the transition was hard, and I think it is for a lot of people, which is why I bring it up. My life, the only thing that I knew was being an athlete, and then all of a sudden I retired and it was taken away. And it's like, who am I? Am I the athlete? Am I the coach? Am I a mom? Like, who am I? Because I've always been this one thing over here. And so it wasn't immediate that I wanted to coach. I was trying to figure out just who I was as a person, who I was as a mom, who I was as a wife, like who I am just on the day to day. And I struggled with it for a little while. Um, but I did get back into coaching, and I think it was something of it. There's a way that the sport just kind of keeps pulling you back in. Where it started off with just the clinic, and it started with helping a friend's daughter, and then it's like, oh, well, can you come do a couple of club practices here and there? But was really fortunate enough to be invited to coach at University of Arizona with some friends, and that kind of started the trajectory of like, I really love this. Like, I miss being around the sport and I want to do it again. And it's all gonna align the right way with family and everything. But I really love just being around the sport of volleyball and the growth and the learning and just how, um, again, I think it's the sport of ultimate teamwork. Like, you can have a basketball player who's a star and they can just take over a whole match. But in volleyball, you really need someone else because they have to touch the ball. You can't have 3 touches. And so it's learning how to communicate and to build. And I really just love being a part of that. So, yeah, eventually the coaching itch kind of called, and I I had to go scratch it. But I I love that I'm not done with my journey. I learn every day. I learn every year, and I get to spend time with Eric and Rob Browning and learn from these amazing coaches that have been in the game for 30 years. And, that's what I want to do. I want to be in the game, whether it's coaching or admin or whatever it is. I just want to help the sport grow.
Let's fast forward to this past summer and being a part of this national team staff. What did you learn about yourself and sort of how was the experience, if you could sum it up in the first season here with the staff this past summer?
Ooh, I learned that we don't always all have all the answers, and sometimes you just get thrown into the deep end and you figure out as you go. I think a new staff, a quad, we had a lot of athletes come through the gym this year, and we didn't have all the answers. But I think when you look back from where we started in BNL to where we ended up at World Championships, significant growth. And I think that we all left the door open for feedback, for learning, just some vulnerable moments and all of that. And so I think it was just a wonderful experience in itself of how much can you grow and learn and change in 1 year and be open to different kind of feedback.
How was connecting with the athletes and sort of that professional and that like you talked about, that personal level? I had the pleasure of being able to travel with you guys to Thailand, and I was also there for VNL Arlington, and I thought you all did a tremendous job of connecting with the athletes, and from the trends from the Labubus all the way to some of the serious conversations in practice. How was the connection level with the athletes this past summer?
I think it was pretty good. And there's always room for upgrades, but I think Eric really kind of made it a point for his staff to say, hey, like, let's sit down and have coffee with an athlete, or let's check in with the athletes, or, let's just make sure, again, we see the human aspect of who they are and what they do. And I think it's really kind of special with a lot of girls on this team. Again, I've been fortunate to coach the collegiate national team the past couple of years. And so I've watched these girls grow up. I've watched Logan, I think the very first team that I came back to on the other side of the USA world as a team leader, she was on that team as like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. And so to see her journey from where we both were, like my very first experience as like USA staff, and one of her first experiences on like an age group team traveling to Mexico, and now here we are all together, now the senior team who's trying to compete for the Olympics. Like, that journey itself was just kind of fun. And so there are a lot of stories and catching up in those, like, man, look where we've come from. Like, look, we're here, and we're not done. Like, there's still work to be done. So how do we make this a great experience for everyone?
What makes Eric unique as a coach? And the second part of that question would be, what about your coaching style really complements what he does to set the tone with the senior team?
Man, I think that Eric there shows that there is kind of strength and that calm and that presence that we talked about. He's not your super vocal, I'm gonna scream my head off kind of coach. Like, he will definitely get on athletes if we need to, but there's just a level of calm that he brings to the team. And sometimes I think we see the coaches who are just super animated, and it's like, man, if I'm not that coach, then am I doing the right thing, or is that the right way to be? And I think that he shows that there is power and quiet and stillness, and you don't always have to speak over everything, but that when you choose to speak and you're deliberate about what you say, then people will listen, and there's power in that. Sometimes if you're just talking all the time just to talk, then your words get lost in it. And I think he's very deliberate about how he moves around the court and when he's talking and all of that. But I think he's a very calm presence. And it actually kind of validates me, because I'm the same way. I can be that raw person, and I love to give that motivational speech. But I'm also very quiet as a coach, and I like to observe. And then I like to ask you what your feedback is. What did you see? I want you to think about your game. Like, I could feed you all the stuff, but if you're not processing it and you're not evaluating your own presence on the court, then we're not getting as far ahead as we can be. And so you've got to take some own ownership and agency on the court. And I think Eric allows his players to do that. And I think that's kind of how I coach as well.
You mentioned, earlier when we were talking about the early days of your career, some of your biggest influences. Were they the same influences as coaches, or did you have other coaches that you looked up to, throughout the college experience, either in your playing days or post-playing days, maybe some influences on the coaching side?
I've definitely had a mix. I've had a little bit of everything, so I think I can draw some of that. But I think again, Debbie Green and Brian Gimolaro, especially, were probably some of the best coaches I could ever have as a young athlete. And again, they saw in me what I couldn't see at the time, and they were hard. And they're like, you got to go through some of the training. You got to understand the fundamentals and the foundation, and there are going to be some hard days, but the reward is going to be worth it. And they pushed me in ways that, I think the early days of me being on the national team were so easy because my practices at Long Beach State were hard. They were extremely hard. And I was prepared for anything that came after it because of what I went through in college. Like, they prepared me for the world, not just volleyball, but for the world. And I think Toshi was something that was kind of a calm presence. And, he sat me down early and he's like, here's where I see you in 2004. And here are the steps that we're going to take to get you there. And I think he saw some of that human level of it, which I really, really appreciated. And I think Karch was someone who came in who's kind of a quiet person. He's very deliberate about his words also. So I got to take that part of him and working with him. And I think he saw me for who I was, again, in the struggle of being a young mom at the time and, trying to compete for the Olympics. And I thought that he really saw me in that moment where it was a space that I didn't feel seen initially.
It sounds like that genuine relatability is something that is so important and has been so important throughout your career. And I think that's a really valuable lesson for either aspiring coaches or for people, really in any sort of walk of life, to be able to relate genuinely to the people that they need to work with to achieve something. I think is sometimes overlooked, and I think that sounds like it was a big influence for you as well. Just a couple more for you, Tayyiba, but talking about being part of that staff and being with Eric, you're heading into that first season with League One Austin. And, tell us about what you're excited about most for. Is it like stepping right back into the way things were this past summer with that staff, or what have you been up to as you gear towards that first season here with League One Austin?
Yeah, I think first year with the national team was a whirlwind for all of us. We kind of stepped in at different moments. I think Eric was announced early and maybe one of the other coaches, but we weren't physically there. And so we all came together as a staff maybe a week, 2 weeks before we left on the road for VNL. And so we really just kind of got thrown into the fire, and we were learning each other on the road, which is also complicated by roster decisions and, figuring out we've got 32 kids that are in or out the gym. Um, and so there was just so much happening. And so it's a lot of fun to step into this environment and have the speed just be a little less. We get to learn each other. We get to have some conversations about national team, about love, about pro, or just about the world of volleyball in itself. And just kind of like, where do you want to be? Like, where do you want to be as a staff for love itself? Where do we want to be as a staff for a national team? And we just get to, have some fun exploring some things right now in a less chaotic environment.
From your perspective, if we can kind of zoom out and take a 30,000-foot view, what do you make of the state of the women's game in the U.S. and the pro leagues? Just what's your perspective on that?
I think that we are in a tremendous time right now. It's momentous. Like, just the sport of volleyball is a fan favorite. We are seeing the streaming numbers. We're seeing the social numbers. We're just seeing the number of butts that are in seats that are coming out and supporting the sport. And so I really just think it's a unique opportunity in our world. I think that there are a lot of people that are trying to capitalize on it. And I'm really excited that there are pro leagues that are establishing. And I just continue to hope that everyone's doing it the right way, because the women that are out here playing deserve the best. And I hope that everyone's going into it with their best interest, and very different formats with the different leagues that are out here. But I just love that people are trying to find a way that is going to provide opportunity and success for all of our young women.
Tayyiba, you've been more than generous with your time here, and so I'm going to get you out of here with the fun questions before you do leave, which is, when you're not coaching and when you have some free time, which is probably never, but when you do, what are you doing? What are some of your hobbies, your passions, when you can find a little speck of free time to do outside of volleyball?
Look, I love to nap. I'm a napper. If I'm not sleeping, if I'm not napping, no. I'm a crafter. I love to craft. I love to sew. I make my own clothes. I design my own clothes. I'm into like epoxy resin art right now. I like to do Just like whatever crafting it can be. Like I've got a whole Lego puzzle bear thing that I'm trying to do. I've got paint stuff. I designed my own shoes last year. So anything that involves crafts, I'm in on it. I love it.
There's so many different directions to go there. First off, did you and Steph have any talks while she was doing her knitting, her crocheting while we were in Thailand? You guys had, could compare notes. As I can't remember if she was making a scarf or a hat there when I saw her before the bus. But
yeah, no, I haven't. And that's probably the one thing that I haven't done. So I did a lot of that when I was pregnant with my son and got away from it. And I actually just got back into it now that I've got a little bit of free time. But if I really have free time, I'd love like Cricut, like the heat press vinyl, like making t-shirt designs and all that kind of stuff. So anybody wants to share some designs, I'm on it.
That's so cool. What about the shoes? What was the design for the shoes?
They were like my team colors for pro, and so they just got some plain white ones and like the leather paint. I'll be designing some for love, so look out for those too.
Oh, that is cool. I think we should leave it there for the tease for people to look out for those shoes, and maybe we'll get you to design some Mizuno ones for Team USA for when you come back next summer. We'll have to work on that. Look, Tayyiba.
We're not playing them, but at least
exactly. Tayyiba, we can't thank you enough for joining us, taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the USA Volleyball Show podcast. Where can people follow you? Where can people find you for when you're doing all of your amazing traveling and doing volleyball 24/7 or your amazing designing?
Yes, I'm on Instagram. I think it's Tayyiba_Haneef. I'm on Facebook. I have no idea what the handle is there, but look me up. You can find me there and keep in touch.
Well, we want to thank you again for joining us. We're looking forward to this season with League One Austin. We're looking forward to getting you back in the gym with us next summer. And thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Always a pleasure, Sevrin.
And once again, a huge thank you to Tayyiba for sitting down and joining us. Thank you for listening. So excited to see what Tayyiba is going to do with the LOVB Austin staff and this upcoming season for League One. We want to thank you once again for listening. Your support means so much to us. We appreciate you all. Amazing to see our podcast continue to grow, and it's all thanks to you. So please continue to watch, continue to listen, continue to share, and don't forget to check out our video episodes on YouTube as well. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much once again for being here. Until next time, you've been listening to the USA Volleyball Show podcast, the official podcast of USA Volleyball.
This has been the USA Volleyball Show with Steven Munson and Sevrin Lavenstein. Produced by Curtis Ward. Our content producer is Laura Fawcett. Our marketing lead is Bree Jaycox. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the USA Volleyball Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts.